What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 2, Episode 7. I'm Pascal Fryer, joined by Mark Haverlack. Mark, how you doing, man? Anything new with you?
No, nothing really personal life besides, I actually am moving. I'm kind of in the process of doing that right now. I'm not going to be out for a little bit, but honestly, more on the hockey side, dude. We kind of got a little bit more going on recently. We were talking about like coaches potentially being fired last week. None of
Yep.
those coaches were fired. We have a different coach fired. We're going to get into that, but pretty entertaining weekend. I think we might start seeing a little bit more of like movement, even if it's not people being fired, but probably some trades and stuff like that coming up because we've got some teams that are like really underachieving, in my opinion, so far. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Not too much new with me either. It's holiday season, so I'm sort of happy about that. Sort of getting in the holiday mood. Got to start watching a couple Christmas movies coming up here. Do some holiday shopping.
Are you like
Overall,
to interrupt, are you like a Christmas guy? Like you won't do Christmas movies before December, or do you like not really care?
oh, I don't care, man. I'm a big Christmas
Okay.
guy, dude. Like the one thing that sucks about like Ontario is that like you don't really get snow half the time, or it's
Dude, it
like
hasn't even been cold.
yeah, it's like for me the weather plays a huge factor in like to like the Christmas mood, I guess. So it's like, man, when it's like looking outside my window right now, it's just dark and bluesy. There's no snow. It's sort of like cold rain. Like for me, that like isn't really like sort of wrecks the Christmas mood. It's like, man, like as
100%.
soon as December 1st hits, I want there to be snow on the ground, playing pond hockey in my fucking Santa hat. But
Dude, I don't
man,
know if there was a
we
Christmas
can't all
like
get that.
probably like I don't know if you remember like 9 or 10 years ago, and there was like not a fucking drop of snow on the ground, and it
Dude,
did not feel like Christmas at all.
see, like for me, like I go to Calgary. I go to Calgary
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much every year for Christmas because all my family's out there. Like I think we've lived here for about like 15, it's closer to 17 years or so. I think we've only done Christmas here maybe no more than 5 times in the
Okay.
17 years or so that we lived here. So it's like for me, going out to Calgary is awesome because it's like you leave Waterloo, leave Ontario, and you get to Calgary and it's snowy, but it's like super sunny, right? So it's like as soon as you get there, it's just like awesome, man, awesome. I'm feeling more
Oh
Christmassy.
yeah.
Let's get into the news though from around the NHL. Biggest news we had, it's the Boston Bruins, and they fired their head coach Jim Montgomery in his third season with the team. He led the Bruins to the greatest regular season in NHL history, but he was just fired after the Bruins fell below the 500 mark on the season. Their assistant coach Joe Sacco is going to be taken over as the team's interim head coach. What are your thoughts on this firing, Mark?
I think it's like a kind of like a panic move within the organization. Obviously, the Bruins are not really playing too well right now. They haven't found like very much of any consistency within their game throughout this season. To be honest with you, like they haven't been really been getting the greatest goaltending either. The thing is, though, is I think this is kind of a last ditch effort from their management team. I'm not really convinced that he deserved to be fired. It feels like that since he's been there, this has kind of been like their only real rough stretch. They've went
Yeah,
through the season. Obviously, you could probably pinpoint back to maybe some point last season where they were about 500 through 20 games, but I think it's just because it's the beginning of the season. They have high expectations internally, right? I think this is more of a roster construction issue besides a coaching issue. I don't really know if their forward group is good enough, to be quite honest with you. Like at this point, they're relying on their second best forward. And look, Brad Marchand's great, but it's like at this point of his career, I think there should be another guy that's kind of better than him with Pastrnak. Obviously, they've kind of lacked that 1C since Bergeron's left. Lindholm's been okay. He kind of started off really good and he's been tailing off. I just think their depth isn't that great. I know their fourth line kind of started off really hot this season. I wonder if they can continue that. But there's a lot of problems and question marks with this team. I
yep,
think that their management kind of looked at it and was like, because I think on paper their decor is pretty solid. Like I'd say it's definitely like more closer to like top 10 than bottom 10 in the league. And I think they just haven't really been playing that good team defense either. So I think that's probably a reason why that Montgomery was let go. Kind of crazy though, before I ask you your opinion. Dude, he coached 184 regular season games with the Bruins. His record was 120, 41, and 23 for a 715 points percentage. Like, kind of crazy that a guy like that is getting fired. You know what I mean? Like, he's been a pretty consistent coach. Obviously, they've only really made the second round in the playoffs since he's been there. But I thought they were going to at least, like, probably give him to the end of the season since his contract's up anyway. I think it's a little bit premature. And I think that Sweeney is next. And I think this is a more of a roster construction problem than a coach problem.
Yeah, I'm all with you on the train that it's a roster construction problem, that it was a bit premature to fire him. Like when you mentioned their forward group, right? I'm looking at their forward group now, man. Like
Does it really scare you, dude? Like, outside of
it,
Pasta?
outside of Pasta, it doesn't scare you. Like let me ask you something, right? Because like you look at the Atlantic Division right now, the Bruins, like dude. I also want to say this too. The Bruins, yeah, they didn't have a great start. They're still fourth in the Atlantic right now. Like they won 3 games this week, dude. They're third, maybe second in the Atlantic, right? It's like you know how much can change over a week in the NHL. Like so, it's like you have
And
that
the
right
Atlantic
there.
hasn't been too strong, to be honest, to start the season. Like,
That is
more
fair.
teams have been bad than good, I think.
That, that is fair. But like, okay, we're looking at some teams right now that are around the same mark as them right now. You have the Tampa Bay Lightning. Whose roster would you rather have, the Tampa Bay Lightnings or the Boston Bruins? I think 10 out of 10 people are going to say the Tampa Bay Lightning's
Oh,
roster.
100%.
You have okay, the Islanders. They're there. That's a bad one, to be honest. But you know what I mean. Like when you look at the Atlantic Division, they're within striking range of Tampa. Ottawa's just below them. Like honestly, man, at this point in time, I might say I rather have Ottawa's roster than the Bruins. Like the Bruins, you have Pasta, man. Like the
I don't think that's a crazy take at
you have
all.
you have Pasta. You have an older Marchand towards the end of his career who's coming off season surgeries, right? Let's not forget about that, man. He's older and he's coming off season surgeries. You look at their top two centers, man. It's Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha. I like those players, but those guys are 2 or 3 Cs on a Stanley Cup winning
No,
team.
but I think those guys, just like Charlie Coyle last year, are kind of asked to play a role that's probably a bit much for them. And not that Charlie Coyle was kind of bad in the 1C role last year. I thought he was actually pretty good, but you see even this year, dude, like he's really dry. He's not putting up many points either. And it's yeah, your comparison to Ottawa, like I don't think that's crazy, man. Like if you really dissect the rosters, it's like you can almost call goaltending a wash because those guys were like
Yeah,
partners and so even. Honestly, I would probably top to bottom prefer Boston's decor. But then
I
if
agree
you
with
go
you
to
there.
forwards, it's like, dude, Ottawa's got a really good fucking top six, dude. And like Boston, it's like they've got like probably three top six forwards, I would say. Like bona fide top six forwards, I would say. I'd say Pasta, I'd say Marchand, and I would say Lindholm. Honestly,
Yeah,
Zaka to me is like I don't know. I don't know if he's like a kind of a bona fide guy. He's on the fringe. But you look at Ottawa, it's like they basically like their top six are like pretty much all of them are like top six players, right? Like their issues in the past have been like depth and defense. It hasn't really been the scoring. So I could see a situation 100% where Ottawa's finishing higher than Boston this season. And look, they're not in a great situation right now either. Like they're not playing the way that they were hoping they could play this year too. But I don't know, man. I'm honestly kind of flipping, and I don't think Boston's making the playoffs this year, dude. They
at
they have
this
not shown me anything this year that scares me enough to show this team's a playoff team.
at this point, I don't think they're making the playoffs too. Like the only way I see them making the playoffs is if Jeremy Swayman goes like Connor Hellebuck mode and he goes on a stretch. Like last season, Connor Hellebuck went on a stretch of like 10, 15 games where he only let in 2 goals, no more than 2 goals, right?
Yeah.
Like if Boston's making the playoffs, you need Jeremy Swayman to go on some sort of stretch like that where Boston's winning a bunch of games because they're not being scored on. Because dude, this forward group, like, yeah, like past a phenomenal player, but I completely agree with you on the fact that they have 3 players that are bona fide top 6 guys. And then their depth is sort of like me as well on forward.
They
Like
got a bunch of guys that I think are more like like good third liners, and their fourth line honestly has been pretty good. Like I can't lie, like that whole Kepke guy who came in from Tampa, like he's been pretty solid. I don't mind Brazeau. It's like I don't know. It's like it's their mid. It's like their second to third line, which is more concerning to me than like their fourth and like I'd say their first. But the thing is too is like they're so thin up front that it's like they've been separating Pasta and Marchand. It's
Yeah.
like ideally you want those guys together to have a strong line. It's like your offense is so thin, you've had to break them up.
The thing is, if you do that, then your second line is Morgan Geekie, Justin Brazeau, and Elias Lindholm, and that could
Yeah,
be
that's the
one of the
problem. Like
worst
my
second lines in the
problem is
NHL if you do that.
I think I started having a problem with this roster when like Morgan Geekie's in the top six and like when Trent Frederick's getting top six time. It's kind of
Yeah,
like unless those guys are there because of an injury, but it's like, dude, they're trying to figure out their roster like with implementing these guys into these roles, right? And the thing is too, it's like you can tell how much the last couple seasons, regardless of how good the defense was, of how good these goalies were, man. Because it's like Jeremy Swayman right now. Honestly, he's probably playing the worst stretch of hockey in his NHL career right now.
yep.
I still have a lot of faith in this guy. He's been really good throughout his career, but it's crazy that like even when a goalie comes back to normal and isn't playing insane, that like the wheels are falling off for this team. Like they've relied on goaltending a lot the last couple of years. Even that year when they had that historic season, sure they had a great team, but they were also getting great goaltending along with that.
That was the year Allmark won the Vezina, no?
Yeah. And
Like
even Swayman had like a 920 that year. Like it's like they were getting phenomenal goaltending. You know what I mean? It's like now that Swayman probably isn't even playing as bad as his numbers are, right? It's just like he's probably playing like a 900 goalie right now, and it's like his defense has been bad, where it's like he's got like an 885. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to turn it around, to be honest. And I think that if they want to make the playoffs, like you said, he's going to have to be a huge reason for this.
But yeah, I think this is on the management, dude. Like Montgomery, you texted me this. As soon as Lalonde gets fired in Detroit, like Montgomery's going to be the head candidate there, right? Like whenever there's some more coaching positions that are opening up, Montgomery's going to be the big name. Like last year, Craig Berube when he got fired, right? A lot of people were like, any job that was opening up in the NHL, it was like, is this going to be Berube here? You know, I feel like this season that's going to be Jim Montgomery, right? Like anytime a
Yeah.
head coaching job opens up, we're all going to be having him in the conversation there. But yeah, like this is completely on the management, man. Like you look at the Allmark trade over the offseason too, right? I think they fucked up on that trade, quite frankly. Like they waited way too long to trade Allmark, and by the time they traded him, they had absolutely no leverage. Look at what they got back in that trade, right? Like if you traded him at the trade deadline last year, even going into the trade deadline last year, they probably could have gotten back like a decent top six forward, right? And
Oh
that
yeah.
would have solved some of the issues they're having right now. But they waited too long there. You get back Corpusalo and a pick. Like you don't get anything back that's helping the team right now, right? Like
Yeah.
you look at some other things that they've done. The Mitchell Miller incident, right? Like it's been a couple years now. Some fans are starting to forget about that, but from their management, that was a pretty big mess up that they did. Let's
So
move
before
on
we move
though.
on, obviously, sorry, I
Yeah,
just wanted to give a little bit of like context to the new guy coming in, right? Joe
yeah,
Sacco. He's never been an NHL coach before. Dude, do you know this guy's been an assistant coach with the Bruins since 2014? He's
that's
been there
a
a long fucking
yeah,
time,
that's a
dude. So
long time.
honestly, like as much as we're talking about them going on the downhill, like he's been a part of this team through a lot of good times, right? Like they made the Stanley Cup Finals. Like honestly, we always talk about maybe not on air, but like the fact of like quote unquote like recycling kind of coaches and GMs, right? Like these guys are getting like shots all the time and we don't think they deserve it. It's like, man, well, let's see what this guy can do. You know what I mean? Like this guy used to play professional hockey himself. 55 years old. He's been kind of grinding through the coaching grind over the past 15 years or so. He was with Buffalo before that. So honestly, I'm really curious to see if this guy can bring something out of this team that maybe I don't think that they have internally. Because look, I've doubted this team over the past couple years at times when they've ended up being really good. You know what I mean? So maybe this can happen again, but we'll see what this guy can do. So getting his first shot in an NHL job, 55 years old, good for him. We'll see what he ends up doing. He's obviously interim for the rest of the year, but maybe he can get himself a job, dude, if these guys end up making the playoffs this year.
I'm hoping he can get himself a job. Seeing new coaches in the NHL is always a great thing, and as we've said, like this isn't on the coaches. Like it's more of a roster construction problem. Let's move on to a team in the Atlantic Division. Dude, these guys are absolutely just getting beat up right now with injuries. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before we talk about the injuries, though, let's talk about the Ryan Reaves incident. He was suspended, of course, for 5 games following his illegal check to the head against the Oilers' Darnell Nurse. Is this a fair suspension in your eyes?
I kind of think so, man. And look, I'm not trying to be like a biased person against the Leafs and shit, but I just even the people I've talked to that are Leaf fans weren't very impressed with the hit. You know what I mean? I thought it was he basically got him right in the head. I'm not going in here saying Reaves is a dirty player and he was meaning to do that or anything like that, but with these suspensions, it's like you can't really look at it that way, right? You kind of just have to judge on what actually happened in the outcome. And he hit him in the head. It was the principal point of contact. You know what I mean? Um, I think 5 games is fair. I didn't really think it'd be more than that. I think that would be my max. To be honest with you, I probably would have been fine with like 3 or 4. The reason I say that is because like what I'm comparing to is last year. I don't know if you remember when Gallagher got suspended when he elbowed Pellick in the head.
Yeah.
I thought that was worse because I think he went out of his way to like after a pass bring his elbow up and hit him in the head, right? And that was the same situation where Gallagher didn't get an in-person hearing, so it's a max 5 game, right? He ended up getting 5 games. If I'm comparing it to something like that, I don't think Reeves's is as bad. So I would have been okay with like 3 to 4, but I think this is definitely a suspension, and I guess I prefer them to be more strict than like lenient. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
same.
okay. I'm okay with it. How about you?
Yeah, 5 is a fair number here. Like anybody that is saying what's wrong with the hit, you watch it again and say
My
it with a
thing is, it's
straight
like, dude, if
face.
that's not what we're suspending, it's like I don't really think we're suspending headshots, really, because it's like
No.
that's kind of the definition of a headshot. You know what I mean? And obviously, maybe it wouldn't have been as much if Nurse didn't like have a concussion and leave the game. Like, you don't know, but like that, at the end of the day, that's what you have to judge it off of, right? So
So
honestly, like I'm okay with it.
the NHL, like player safety, they sort of release about like a minute 30 to 2 minute sort of quick like voice memo on their eyes of the suspension and why it got 5 games. And basically, the main things that they were saying in it was Darnell. The main point of contact was the head, which is a no go. Like
Okay.
Ryan Reaves, basically, he just had to take that approach that hit at a different angle, and it could have been a clean hit, but it was a main point of contact. And then the other two things they were saying was that it resulted in a player being injured. And then Ryan Reeves also has a history with the NHL Department of Player Safety, right? He's been suspended 3 times for a total of 6 games in his career. So it's like when you mix in the hit, the injury, and the fact that he has a history here, then yeah, I think 5 games is enough. Like the NHL, you want to be protecting your players, right? Like if this was a if this was, let me say it this way: the Leafs fans out there that are pissed off and think 5 games is too much. If this was Austin Matthews on the other side of the hit, dude, they'd be asking for like 15 games for whoever made that hit, right? Like it was an illegal check to the head that resulted in a player getting injured, and the guy has a history with the player. Oh my god, the player safety program.
GOPS or whatever.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like when you add all those things up, why should he not get 5 games? We're trying to take these types of hits away from hockey. When you
Yeah.
give a guy 5 games, it's going to make players think about before you're running around the ice throwing hits like this, right? Like I don't know what people are complaining about. 5 games is enough. Let's move on though to the Leafs and their injury problems that they have going on right now. The biggest one is after a trip to Germany to receive some injury treatment, Austin Matthews is likely to return to the lineup in Florida next week. He's been day to day since November 5th with an undisclosed upper body injury. Before we talk about sort of the injury and what it means to the team, what are your thoughts on him being day to day for 3 weeks? Because it's been 3 weeks now. He's been day to day.
I'm not really surprised. Like, I mean, like the Leafs are a team that doesn't really like they don't divulge a lot of like medical information, right? Like
Yeah,
even like timelines seem weird sometimes, and like it's not like they're the only team that does it. My argument, I guess, would be like on the other side, like maybe they just didn't honestly know that he was going to be out this long. Like, do you really think like at the beginning of this they were like, oh, he's gonna have to like fly to Germany? Like, probably not.
No,
I mean, like, what
yeah.
do you think about that too? Like, I think honestly, like, I think a lot of people are overreacting. I think it's
Uh,
just, I think it's more like it's honestly like a doctor he's seen before, and I obviously we don't know what the injury is. If I had to guess, I think it's probably something with his wrist. And I think that
Same.
like just because if it's an injury he's dealt with before, like a doctor, maybe the doctor, maybe he's just wants that doctor's opinion about something brand new. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? I'm not within the team. I'm just speculating. I think he probably just really likes this doctor and he's trusting him. And maybe there was just wasn't an option that the doctor could come see him, right? Like, you know what? So I don't know. I think people are just kind of overreacting about it. Like, I don't. Who cares? Like, if he's out anyway and not playing, and if it's the best option for him, like, just like, why are people really worrying about it? Especially if he's
People,
going to be back. You know what I mean? Like, do you have a
people,
problem with him being day to day for 3 weeks? Because like, but I guess my thing is, it's like it's not like they're trying to like an it's like finesse him on LTIR situation. Like it's not like him being day to day is better than him being potentially on LTIR because realistically he could have went on LTIR if he was out for 3 weeks or longer, right? So then that opens up cap space. But when he's day to day, it's just like okay, he's injured and you bring up another player. Like it's not like they're trying to like manipulate the cap or like anything in that sense. So it's like I guess that's why I just don't really have a problem with it. You know what I
see,
mean?
I don't really. The issue I have with it's not as much on the team, it's more on the NHL that as a league, they allow teams to do this. Is like when you look at other professional sports leagues, like you look at the NFL, it's like on the Thursday before the weekend, they have to come out with all the players that are injured and sort of like so it's for people betting or fantasy players, there's clarity there, right? It's like when you look at all the betting and fantasy that goes on right now, it's a massive market in sports and within
Yeah,
the
oh yeah.
NHL, right? Like you get a lot of money from that. And for me, it's like I understand if you don't want to say what the exact injury is. Like if it's his wrist, of course you don't want to maybe be saying that or whatever, or if it's a neck issue or whatever, right? Like, I understand if teams don't want to divulge the information about what the exact like part of the body is injured and stuff, but I think at least the timeline has to be correct because then like you have betters or fantasy users who aren't getting sort of screwed over because he's been listed as day to day. So it's you know what I mean?
My I
That's where my
do
issue
get it.
is.
I do get it, but like when you say betters though, like the reason why I'm questioning what you're saying is because like okay, we've known Matthews has been out for the last 15 days. So when you say betters, is it like it's not like you don't go, okay, we're recording this Wednesday, November 20th. They're playing Vegas tonight. You know going into tonight he's not playing. So when you say betters, do you mean more like if you put a future on him? Like
Yeah,
so say at the beginning of this you were like obviously he hasn't had the greatest start for goal scoring. Like if you're saying okay, you're gonna bet he's gonna get 45 goals this year. Like, are you saying like at the beginning of the injury, if someone who bet that and now it's like you're waiting and it's 15 days and now you're like, oh well shit, he's out like way longer than I thought. Now I don't think he's gonna hit this. Like, do you mean in that sense for betting
in
or
sort
do
of
you
in
mean
that
like even team like performance? Like, what do you mean exactly?
honestly sort of both because it's like even the futures, right? It's like let's say you put a $50 bet down on Matthews to win the Rocket, right? Like your cash out would have been a lot better 3 weeks ago than now, right? But it's like let's say you waited that first week because it's like oh he's day to day, he might return next week. Dude, at that now we're at the point where it's been 3 weeks and that cash out is probably like 25% of what it was
Okay, I get
three
that, but
weeks ago. And
honestly
then
though, like I have an argument for the other side of this though. Say,
okay,
okay, say for instance, the Habs start the season without Patrick Laine. They say he's going to be out till probably Christmas, maybe January. He seems like he's ahead of schedule right now. He's skating. I don't know when he's coming back. He doesn't have contact. Let's say he's back in 15 days, okay? What if you were like, what if you did like an over under points for the Habs on the regular season and you're like, Oh, like, what if you think that Patrick Laine could literally make that difference where it could give the Habs like 4 extra wins, and you are like, okay, I'm gonna bet them under 65 points, and now Laine comes back like a month early, and then you're like, oh well, shit, he could make that much of a difference. I don't honestly think that, but like, what if you did think that? You know what I mean? And what if it was a different player, like even Drew Doughty with LA? Like, what if you think, okay, shit, he's out till February, they're not making the playoffs. Now he's back before Christmas. So like and I get it and you can't really predict that, but like what I'm saying is as I feel like it goes both ways.
Yeah. For me, the only difference is like with Doughty and Line, it's like those guys are gonna be out long term, right? It's like the team when they like it's not like the teams when they're announcing these injuries are saying they're gonna be week to week or they're gonna be out for the season, right? Because then it's a bit different. And like the timelines right now, yeah, like they might come back a bit sooner, but it's not like they're coming back like 3 months sooner than what they're saying,
No, but
right?
like I still like, dude, if Doughty came back a month early and LA was like struggling, like that month could literally help them make the playoffs, dude.
It could. I think it
Like
honestly
I
it's
do
also
get what you're saying. It's just like I see like I just feel like there's a counter argument of why it's like the way it is. You know what I mean? But like I mean ideally, yeah. Like I mean some people are probably looking to put like futures on how many goals Matthews is scoring the rest of the year, right? And it's like it's kind of a gray area right now with him not playing, but I don't know, but like do you not just think that it's like a legit day-to-day injury that kind of like lasted longer?
I don't think it's a day-to-day injury, man.
You
Like
think it's like a nagging thing that he's been dealing with, and it's like
when
after a couple days he's just not good enough, and it's just getting delayed.
when you look at injuries in the NHL that it's like day-to-day stuff. Like when players are listed as day-to-day, a lot of the time it's like it's really minor stuff. It's a player's sick, a player blocked a
Pulled
shot and has a
groin or
nasty
something, yeah.
nasty bruise, pulled a groin, like their back is like pulled something in their back, right? Like those are a lot of the day-to-day injuries we see. It's like when Matthews got injured, I have no doubt in my mind that the Leafs didn't think that, right? Like if it is his wrist or whatever it is, man, like I don't
Yeah,
think
just
an
I don't
injury
know what
that
the injury is, so it's like I don't really know. Like you know what I mean? Like I have no I it's I feel like it's just hard to tell without the injury sometimes though.
that is that is a good one too, because like
Because what if it's not his wrist, dude? Like, what if it's just like they want an opinion of this doctor that he's seen? But like that also makes me think that it's a past injury, right? Like
yeah,
that if it's a doctor that he's seen before, like so I don't know, man. We'll
let's
see.
move on.
When do they play Florida on the weekend?
I believe it's early next week
Okay, so yeah, that'll be
because
about like 3.5 weeks at that point. But
the earliest game they were saying he could return would have been Sunday, and I don't think Sunday's as likely anymore.
the problem is though, is like for what you're saying is like the rest of the league's not really gonna give a shit, right? Because it's like they look,
Yeah.
especially if they're playing him, they're like, well, fuck, their best players out of the lineup. Like it's fucking better for us, right? So, like, it's not like it's like a league wide like complaint or concern either, you know?
Let's talk about some of the other injuries these guys have now. Max Domi, he's on the IR.
He
So
hasn't
right,
had a good start, man.
dude, right now on the IR, you got Matthews, Pacioretty, Calle Yarncroke, David Kampf, and Max Domi. They're beat up on forward. It's even at the point that there's been a bit of discussion moving Mitch Marner over to center. How do you feel about Mitch Marner playing center?
Why don't they just put Nylander at center?
Dude, they've tried that so many times. I don't think you can try that again. They tried it again in the preseason, right? Like, I think they've
Yeah, but
tried it
like
for
I
like
just don't really
five
think they've
preseasons
really
in a
given
row.
him a long enough leash with it. You don't think?
I don't think they've given him a long enough leash with it. If they
Even
really were
with
serious about
Keith
it,
either.
if they were really serious about it, you give them 10, 15 games to start the season at center, and then you go from there. The only argument I have though is like William Nylander is not that great defensively. Like Mitch Marner, yeah, he's
Yeah, Marner's a
undersized.
lot better defensively.
Yeah, he's going to be undersized if you play him at center, but he's a lot he's a lot better defensively and he's a lot better with his stick than William Nylander is. And
I
the
think
other
he's
thing,
got the most takeaways in the league right now, Marner.
he's always up there for the
Sorry, I
last
keep
couple of
interrupting
season
you.
in takeaways. But the other thing with Marner too, why I wouldn't mind seeing him at centers, like he's a really good playmaker, right? And having him at the center of the ice where it's a shorter pass to either winger that might help his playmaking, right? Instead of playing him on the wing where he's going across the ice or stuff like that. How would you feel about him though really playing at center?
I mean, I think it's worth a shot. If they don't want to try it out with Nylander again, I think you may as well. Like you bring up some pretty good points with that. Um, I feel like just because of how grindy he is, I think Nyes would be a good guy to put on his wing. To be
Yeah,
honest, like getting the corners and stuff, just because it's going to be obviously not really familiar for Marner, right? And yeah, he's very defensively responsible. But it's going to be still a different kind of game for him, right? So I guess even putting a guy that'll like go into the corners and that's bigger, I think that would probably benefit him quite a bit. You know what I mean? Is this something that they've been talking about, or is this something that you're just suggesting?
so I saw an article where basically somebody at practice the other day or like post game asked their coach how he would feel about playing Marner at center just with how beat up they are at center right now, right? And Brewery said he was open to it. So there has been a bit of talk
My
now
thing
that
would be
does
more
he move
like,
over?
why didn't they try it earlier in Matthews' injury? Like Domi's gone now.
I think that's the thing is that Domi's gone now. Like looking at their centers right now, you got JT, Pontus Holmberg, Fraser Minton, and Steven Lorenz. So it's like their center depth is pretty.
So, but the thing is those when Matthews comes back, are they just going to go Matthews? Like, if they decide to go, if Matthews comes back and Marner, they decide to put him at center, are they going to be running like Matthews, Marner, Tavares at center?
Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to that, man.
Like,
I wouldn't be
or maybe
opposed to
I
that.
don't know, or put him at 3C. Like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? At least get less big matchups. You know what I mean? Like to start off at center. I don't know. And then fourth line, I mean, yeah, Holmberg's got familiarity there. So does Lorentz. Probably better to put Minton on the wing to start. I know he's been pretty good in the A and stuff, but he's probably gonna be more like a 4C, I guess, with Camp out.
Yeah. It'll definitely be
I don't know. I'm
interesting
not
to sort
opposed
of
to it,
see.
man. You got to try shit out, especially when you got this many injuries. Like, you just got to see if it'll work. Like, if it's, I mean, honestly, dude, if it's really that bad, it's like, I don't know. You could probably just run. You probably put Nylander there for like a game or two if you really have to. Like, you know what I mean? At least he's got more like experience at center than Marner. But I mean, I don't think I can't see Marner being that bad at it.
Neither could I.
I
I
don't know
just
if
thought
he
it
would
was
excel at it, but it's like for a short term like try. Like, I mean, I think it's worth a shot.
I just thought it was interesting to see like what do you get a game at center maybe here with all the injuries and it's like hey like if he gets a game there and he plays amazing like maybe Berube's like
Yeah,
well
like
let's
I'm
try
curious
this
to
out
see
for a
their
little bit.
lineup tonight, dude, because no Matthews, no Domi. So it's like if they're not putting Marner and Nylander at center, it's Tavares, it's probably Holmberg, Lorentz, and maybe Minton does get a shot at center at least
Yeah,
tonight. Like, so yeah, they're pretty thin. I'm curious to see how they do. I find that I've always found the Leafs though in the last couple of years, like when they have had injuries or big guys have been out, they've actually played well. And
yeah.
like they've actually had a pretty good record. You know what I mean? Like remember when Riley got suspended last year? Like didn't they go 5-0 after
I
like
think it was
they
something
got
like that.
suspended? So I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they beat Vegas tonight. I know Samsonov's not starting. He's starting tomorrow in Ottawa. I think that would have been funny if he got the start. But honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they win tonight with all these injuries too.
Let's move out to the Pacific Division. The Vancouver Canucks have announced that forward JT Miller is taking an indefinite leave of absence for personal reasons. Um, basically, they didn't really touch on why he was leaving. All they really said was right now, their sole focus is making sure that JT knows the entire organization is there to support him. That's what their general manager Patrick Alvin sort of had to say about the reason for him leaving. What do you make of this for the Vancouver Canucks?
Well, as a team, like it's obviously going to hurt them, right? He's a very valuable player to this team, and he's been stepping up quite a bit, especially when like we've talked about Pedersen's been kind of struggling the past, I don't know, like say 7, 8 months, whatever it is. Um, yeah, obviously there's not a lot to touch on like in the personal matter. I do know, and I heard online like his wife like deactivated her Instagram or something. So I don't know if it's like kind of relationship wise with her or like maybe something happened within their family. Who really knows, right? Like, I mean, people are talking about that he hasn't been playing that well this year. and like he's still at like 15 points in 16 games, right? And obviously he's shown and over the past couple of years like he can be even better than that. And maybe this is what's causing him to like maybe not play at the top of his game, whatever's going on with him, right? So hopefully he can like kind of take the time he needs and figure stuff out and be able to come back this season. As a team though, like this is going to be a huge test for the Canucks, dude. And like honestly, my opinion, dude, a fucking ton of pressure on Pettersson. Ton.
Yeah, yeah,
He's the guy right now. It's like you're not going to be behind a guy that's been playing better than you, like a more veteran guy. Like they haven't really been that great to start the year either, right? And now it's like, dude, they haven't had Demko. He seems like he's closer to coming back, but now you're out like I would say your best forward and JT Miller. So gonna be a test for this team for sure. And it's like you don't know what these things, right? What the timeline. Like, dude, he could be back next week. He could be back in freaking beginning of April, like, or he might not even be back this year, right? Like we saw Perron left. He's back now. He's only played 7 games this year, right? So that's kind of the thing with these type of situations is you don't know like the timeline, right? So the Canucks are just gonna have to kind of prepare in a sense that honestly, like he might not even be coming back this year. Like we got to figure it out without him. You know what I mean? So, like I said, Pettersson. I think this is we're really going to see the type of player he is moving forward in this next stretch of games because he's shown he can be a dominant player, like a top 10 center in the league, probably even a top 10 player at times when he's at
yeah.
his best. And we've been seeing like a guy that's barely had the chance to figure it out. Dude, he's had like what, 3 5-on-5 goals in the past like 40 games or something. Like he just really hasn't been himself. He's been really underachieving, and you definitely know he's better than what he is, right? So big stretch for the Canucks, big stretch for Pettersson coming up, and honestly, just wish the best for Miller and his family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. The Winter Classic jerseys they've now been revealed. It's between St. Louis and Chicago. I'm liking these jerseys. Let's start off with St. Louis though, Mark. What are your thoughts on their jerseys?
Dude, I like it. Is it white or is it like cream?
I think it's more of like a cream color.
Dude, honestly, I don't know what it is. Like the cream jerseys just get me every time. And it's like a lot of the times they have a really good design on them. I like this to be honest. I mean, I'm more of a fan of the Hawks ones, I guess, but it is pretty good. I just kind of the only thing I guess I question about it is like I feel like the logo would have looked really good instead of the St. Louis,
Yeah.
but like I don't think it looks bad in any ways. Like if I was on a rating scale, I'd probably give it probably like I'll go like an 8 out of 10. I'd say
See,
like if I was a
that's
Blues fan, I would buy. I think.
for me. Like I really like the look of the jerseys. The only thing for me that's sort of throwing me off is it just like it's it, it's more. I feel like it's more like a Buffalo sort of jersey than a St. Louis jersey. I don't know if
I
you know what
can
I mean by
I
that,
can
but it's
kind of
like
see that.
if
Yeah.
you switched out the Sabres or Buffalo for where St. Louis is on that jersey, like I think it would suit the Sabres better. If I was them, I would have maybe done a bit darker of a shade of blue because then it's like
But
it
they
just
are kind of that blue though, man. Like with the
yeah.
musical note. I feel like you might run into that problem with a couple teams though, right? Just having such similar colors.
Yeah, when you have 32 teams in a league, you're gonna
But
run into
you might
sort of
think
color
different if it was
overlaps
the
and stuff.
logo instead of St. Louis though. Like the writing. Like if that logo was on there instead, you might be like, okay, that actually like suits it, right? Because it's like I don't think they are like a really dark blue. Like I feel like that's their blue, you know?
That for sure, I think, is their blue, but I'm just thinking back to the Winter Classic jersey that they had back when like TJ Oshie and Shattenkirk were on the team, and they did that sort of like navy blue. Like I really enjoyed those
Was
ones
it
that they
that long
wore.
ago? I thought
Oh
that was
yeah,
only a couple years ago.
I believe the when they played in the Winter Classic, it was probably like 2017 around there, maybe.
I think that they've had an outdoor game since then, though, because I'm pretty sure um, they played Minnesota or something a couple years ago. I don't know if it was the Winter Classic, but I'm checking right now because I'm pretty sure Binnington was in that. Yeah, dude, January 1st, 2022. Blues versus Minnesota Wild. Are those the jerseys you're talking about?
I'm just trying to find them right now. Um,
Because they also
for
had
the
an outdoor
jerseys,
game
but
in 2017, which was probably Oshie and like Shattenkirk and stuff. But they have had an outdoor game like really recently. I don't think a lot of people realize that. It was only 3 years ago. So, well, actually, it's going to be 4 years in between outdoor games. But I'm pretty sure that was a wild game. I remember it was like 6-4 or something. But I remember that they've had an outdoor game since Binnington's been there, and he's only been there since 2019, right? So,
the ones I'm thinking of are for sure the 2017 ones.
okay.
The 2017 ones, it was like maybe it was even earlier to be honest, because I'm looking at the 2017 ones right now and they're a bit different. I'll have to find it after the podcast, but there's a jersey that St. Louis wore that was like a navy bluish type of jersey that I absolutely loved at one point. Like I do like these jerseys. I love the look of them, to be honest. I just like honestly, when I first saw them, I thought it was Buffalo, and I had to sort of read the article a little bit and be like, "Oh shit, it's St. Louis." I'm an idiot. Let's move on though to the Chicago Blackhawks jersey. These ones, oh my God, man, these ones are perfect. What do you think about them
Dude,
though?
I'd give him like a 9.5 out of 10, I think.
Yeah,
Like if I was any sort of if I had any sort of like likeness to this team, I feel like I would buy this jersey.
honestly, I might
And
just
get a
get a
player
Bedard
that I
one.
like. I just hate the organization. I don't think I could ever buy a jersey with them. So honestly though, they're really freaking nice. Like if I was a Hawks fan, 100% would be buying one of these. I love
They also,
the logo on the side too, dude. Like in the middle of the stripes. Like I don't know why I really like that.
for me, it's the two logos. The fact that the jersey is like mostly red, which is the main color that you think about when you think of the Blackhawks, and then instead of doing the black and white stripes, it's like that black and cream color. And I'm all with you on the cream color in the NHL. Like when there's that cream color on the jersey instead of just like the basic white, I think it makes it a little bit more retro, and I really like the look of it. And then the other thing too I'm really liking is Nick Foligno in this photo has got the sort of cream colored, brownish tan, whatever
Dude, that's what I
you
was
want to
about to
call it, the
say. The
gloves.
gloves, man.
Oh, oh man, it looks nice. I might have to get myself a Connor Bedard Blackhawks winter classic jersey. I'm definitely liking this one. Overall, though, winter classic, it's gonna be fun to watch. It's on the 31st of December, so I'm definitely gonna be
Is it?
posted up posted up watching it somewhere. I had a tab open somewhere here. Yep, December 31st, 5 p.m. So it's gonna be
Wow, because I knew it wasn't on knew it wasn't on New Year's Day, but I thought it was on the second.
yeah, it's on New Year's Eve, I guess, this year,
I
which
mean,
I like,
actually,
man.
the only thing that's gonna be weird is that is if there a World Junior game on. 'Cause it's in Ottawa.
There might be. The only
Dude, you
thing
might
was
have like your 7 o'clock like Canada game.
if Canada's playing at 7 though, that honestly wouldn't be too bad because the game is at 5 o'clock,
I think you
the
probably have
Winter Classic. So
one period kind of
yeah,
secting, but
hey, get it going on two TVs, double monitor, one
see,
on
they probably don't
each.
give a shit though, because they're like, we're not gonna plan it around Canada's game. Like,
Yeah, and if it's like the semifinals, like maybe Canada's not even playing in it or something. But
no, that's always the last day for the round robin, the 31st, and then
true,
they start
true.
the playoffs in the new year.
Let's move on though and wrap up the episode with some PWHL news. They announced a new rule change going into their second season here. It's called the no escape rule. And basically, what the rule is that it requires players on a penalized team with penalty time on the clock to remain on the ice until after the face-off resumes action. That, not gonna lie, the first time I sort of read it, um, it was a bit confusing, but basically what it is if your team takes a penalty, it's similar to the icing where you can't do a line change, right? So it's like if I take a penalty and I go to the penalty box, the players that were on the ice with me can't change until after the face off. So it's like I like it because like there's times if the defenseman takes a penalty, you might be stuck out there with three forwards and one defenseman for the first 30 seconds of the
Hold on, I'm honestly confused because I thought it was something totally different. So, are you saying if someone takes a penalty, they go in the box, that the four players that are killing the penalty have to be on the ice the entire time until that penalty person comes out of the box?
just for the face it's just for the face off.
Like the first face-off after the penalty?
Yeah.
Oh, so the four other players that were on the ice have to stay on for that face-off.
Yeah, on for that face off, and then you
Oh,
can
okay.
change. So like
I mean, that could
hypothetically,
change the game a little bit.
so if the defenseman takes a penalty, you might be stuck out there for the first 10 seconds or until you can clear the puck and get a line change. Like you might be stuck out there with three forwards and one defenseman for a little bit of the
Dude, I kind
penalty
of
kill,
like that.
right?
I
I
kind of
like it
like
too,
this.
man. Dude,
I thought it was what I was saying, and I was like, dude, that's gonna be
that
so bad. Like, there's gonna be so many power play goals. Like, but honestly, man, yeah. Man, if you get stuck out there and you take a stupid freaking penalty, imagine you're at like a 2 minute shift, and then you gotta stay on.
yep. And it's like your defenseman, you got three forwards out there running around, not
Oh
like
yeah.
I love this rule change. Basically, what I was reading from it was that they're sort of doing this just to add to the offense in the league because it's like, let's be real, the fans want to see goals and want to see big offensive performances. And if this helps it out, that'd be awesome. Like honestly, I'd like to see this in the NHL if it works. Like if it works well in the PWHL, I wouldn't mind seeing it come to the NHL at some point. Like, is this something you'd like to see in the NHL? Maybe.
I mean, I'd be open to it for sure. I mean, I guess I'd like to see how it works out in the PWHL first, but I mean, yeah, I'd be open to it. I guess I'm just like, dude, I'm more on like the goalie side of things. So like I hate that there's so much offense right now because there's so many goalies that just look so bad just because scoring's up. So it's like I don't really know I'm on the side of bringing in like even more scoring. So I guess that's why I'm not like, yeah, 100% let's do it. But I mean, it would definitely bring more interest into the NHL. But like there's just I don't even know. Like, do you think scoring's up this year? This is what I wanted to ask you. Okay, I've been meaning to ask you. Do you think if you had to pinpoint to one single thing in the NHL what's going on, not even this year, but lately, would you say goalies have gotten worse, team defense has gotten worse, or like players are just more skilled up front and score more goals? Listen, I think that it's probably a combination of all three, but if you had to pinpoint to one of them, what would you say it's most?
Oh, see, I am fully on the train that forwards and not only forwards but forwards, defensemen, like players are way better and way more skilled than they used to be. And I think the way the game is played nowadays is a lot more offensive minded than it was even 5, 10 years ago. Like even goalies, dude. I think since maybe like 10 years ago, goalies have gotten better. I think everybody in the sport's gotten better, but I think the way the game is played nowadays is a lot more offensive minded. Like,
Yeah,
dude, like
honestly, I do agree with that because it's like, dude, I feel like some of these goalies that like don't really have great stats. It's like, dude, I watch them and I'm like, dude, this guy's actually like fucking good. And it's like he's got like an 890 save percentage or something. Honestly, I feel that way, and I'm biased about Montembeault sometimes. Like I watch him play and I'm like, dude, he's actually like good. Like he's solid, and it's like he's sitting there with an 890 save percentage, so no one's really taking him seriously, right? But I honestly think so too. I think that forwards are just getting like some of these guys are so fucking good, dude. Like it's actually insane, and I think that's what's kind of bringing up scoring and like it's like not even like that there's more. I think it's contributing to like there's a lot more games this year where goalies are letting in like 4 goals on like 25 shots. So it's like your save percentage is like 860. It's not even like there's been games obviously where there's been a ton of shots, but like I think it's just like that extra goal may lower that save percentage. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think that's what's kind of been happening, at least like to start this year. But I was thinking about this earlier in the week. I honestly forgot to write it down. Since we were talking about this, it popped into my head, and I was kind of curious to what you thought it is. But like, I agree. I don't really think goalies have gotten worse, man. Like,
I think they've gotten better, dude. To be honest,
yeah, like I think there is a lot less commitment to team defense for sure.
I think there's less commitment to team defense, and like just like look at the way the game's played nowadays. Like you have guys that are defensemen like Eric Carlson and Kel McCarr who when they're out there in the offensive zone it's having four forwards out there pretty much, right? Like you
Yeah.
have that players are a lot faster and have a lot more open space nowadays. Like if you compare nowadays to not 5 years ago, but more like 10, 15 years ago. Like, okay, a guy like Cole Caulfield, right?
Yeah.
A guy like Cole Caulfield, if you put him in like the 2000s era of hockey, I don't know if he plays in the NHL, dude, to be honest.
No, I don't really disagree. And like one guy that comes to mind that was kind of wrapped up in the wrong era. Do you remember Rob Schremp? That
Not
guy who
really. I'm a
like did
bit
remember the
too
videos? He was like doing the lacrosse moves and shit on the breakaways. He played for London in the O.
I'm a bit too young for that, I think.
You gotta look up some of this guy's videos. If you watched him, you'd be like, man, like he's so skilled in shit, but he was in that era where it wasn't like that, so he didn't thrive in the NHL. But it's like I think if you put him in today's era, he'd probably be like at least like
Yeah.
a top six forward. Like you know what I mean? So yeah, I can't really sit here and say that Caulfield would maybe make the NHL, but I don't know if he'd be like as good as he is. Like you know what I mean?
Because
So
it's like back then you had guys like Pronger, Niedermeyer, Bufflin, like dude, like back then the physicality was so much more. It's like some of these smaller guys, and not even the smaller guys, but even like the McDavids. Like think about how much when McDavid's going through the neutral zone, how quick he is, and how much time and space he has. Where it's like 15 years ago, like in the 2000s, late 2000s, like guys would be following McDavid around the ice, just body him off, like bodying him off the puck when he doesn't have the puck on his stick. As soon as he gets the puck, somebody would be draped all over him, right? Where it's like nowadays, just with the rules and the way it's officiated, even you can't really do that anymore. Where we're as physical as is in the 2000s, but
I like the what I also think too is that obviously we've seen this shift in like even goaltending where they want bigger guys.
yeah,
And what I think it is it's like the players are better. It's like it's not like their shots are like faster. Like I mean they could be, but like it's so quick, right? That I think that the way these people think is that okay, if we get like the biggest goalie, like not the biggest goalie possible, but like if we get a bigger guy who's like still good movement wise, it's like a lot of like goaltending I think now is like it's like blocking. It's like being in the right position. It's like
yeah,
dude, even sometimes it's like a really nice save and it's like just because like he was in the right position and it's like the puck just hit him. You know what I mean? And it's like even sometimes like these like glove saves, like dude, sometimes it's like dude, your glove is literally in the fucking right spot and it like lands there. Like you know what I mean? But it's like, and I'm not taking anything against any of these goalies because a lot of them are really skilled and can move. But I think that's their thought mentality that where it's like okay, if we can get a 6'5" goalie compared to like a 6 foot goalie, it's like how many extra saves can he make just because he's bigger and if his body's in the right position, like he can block those in accordance to like someone who's smaller and might not be able to do that. That's why like I love watching guys like Soros and like even why like he hasn't really been good so far in his career, but like Levi, like they're smaller guys and it's like dude, they're so people don't realize like how athletic these guys are.
yeah,
Like Saros is like a top 10 goalie in the NHL, dude, playing at like 6 foot, right? Like that's hard compared to a guy who's like Vasilevsky, who's 6'4", and it's like, yeah, being taller isn't really that big of an advantage, but like, dude, he's got bigger legs, longer arms. Like,
bigger
dude, that
torso.
extra freaking inch can be that save that wins you a game. You know what I mean? So it's like I like seeing the guys that are kind of smaller and can thrive and be good. And I think that's why like teams are taking this approach of taking like bigger goalies lately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see over the next like 5, 10 years, and like throughout our lifetime, like how does the game continue to change? Do we go back to more like defensive style of hockey at some point? Does scoring dip back down? Right? It's like
I don't know if it's ever gonna
you
head
never
back in
know.
that direction though, man. Like it's just like all these kids are so skilled now coming in, right? Like they're like thriving in the NHL like before they're even 20 years old. So
Got the Bedards and Zegerses just on YouTube and Instagram doing all these fucking
dude, even like he
puck
hasn't played a
tricks.
ton because of his injury, but Celebrini's sweet, man. Like
Yeah.
he's a player.
Overall, though, that pretty much wraps up the podcast for today. We'll be back next week, as always, with a new episode. We'll be doing some short videos too next week that'll be coming out. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for tuning in, everybody.